There are a few of them still, especially in the cadre of security and messengers. There are a few of them. And you see, let me tell you this, before we get this concept of minimum wage wrongly. If there's a minimum wage approved by the federal government, every sector goes into that sector and sees the applicability. Like the question you asked, see whether there are people who are not covered by that 18,000 provision, and then see how they can be moved. And in moving them, you don't move him to 18,000 to meet the other person 18,000. So you have to sit down and adjust this so that if somebody who was getting 17 moves to 18, the other person should not be getting 18 with him since they are not at the same salary grade. This is a common practice all over. And when you say we are not meeting, it's a problem. Doesn't really matter when you meet, whether it's 1 naira that some people are any less than 18,000, but you have to meet and discuss this. So what we are telling you now is that the attempt to discuss this was rebuffed. Just like the attempt to review a expired collective agreement of 2000 that expired in 2011 that was rebuffed. So the point I wanted to make is that we should come to the table and look at all these issues. Look, there's nobody ending this. You guys, we can't pay you this. We have to talk.
Okay. Now I'll let you
go. Let's look at privatization now, or should I say, the reform that the president spoke about, and it was agreed that PHCN could not continue in its present structure. It had to be broken up, and some of it had to be given out to people to come and manage. What is your issue with some of these companies being managed by overseas companies? For better efficiency, we're told?
Well, I think there is a problem there. In the first place, we have left that stage. Before now, 3-4 years ago, up to today, I believe, and I still strongly believe, that taking these companies to individuals is not the best. I'm not talking of where we are now. But where we are now is people who have worked in that place. If you are taking it to a private person, you must pay them their entitlement, because if I work for government for 20 years and you transfer me to a private individual, he cannot take over the 20 years I have worked for government. That is where we are. But if you are to look at that concept, I will tell you that there's no country in the world where you don't have base power, where the state has a minimum provision of what it generates and leave the rest to either the private sector, the states, or the local governments. But in Nigeria, the little 4,000 megawatts is what we are sharing to the individuals, and then allowing the state to say whatever those ones want to do about us, even if they want to put tariff at 1 million, because if I buy PSN, I will determine the tariff. So that is what is happening. In the US, that is capital of capitalism, 250,000 megawatts is the best power generated by the government of America. And now allow states, you allow local governments, you allow private sector to now generate. No matter what happens in the United States, that 250,000 megawatts is there. So this 4,000 is what they are scrambling for, because since 2004, 2005, many companies have been licensed to generate, including the company of the Minister of Power. They have not generated 1 watt, and we are scrambling for 4,000 megawatts.
But we have generated, according to...
They're not supposed to own the company, they're supposed to manage it. That's what we're told.
Yeah. You are talking of Manitoba and TCN.
Because these are the ones that you all have been carrying placards about.
You are talking of Manitoba. Who owns Manitoba? Manitoba of Canada is a company owned by a municipal, who should the local government. Sorry, I'm coming. And I challenged them when they came here that your customer base in Canada is no more than 750,000, and they accepted that is 720. And then you are managing Nigeria electricity with over how many million people? That's not even the issue. Let's not even go there. What is the local content in the agreement you are entering with Manitoba? You bring general manager, HR, you bring head finance, whereas you are paying them to manage. You give them their economy. No country hands over its transmission company to a foreign company. Transmission company is the security of a nation. And now, I'm saying it on screen.
No, let's get it.
So what's the agreement with Manitoba?
The agreement, according
is that
to
you
what
bring
the
8
federal
people. Sorry,
government...
you bring
yes,
8 people.
Yes.
8 whites.
Yes.
And then you have 3,000 people working. And you pay them how many thousand? You pay them over $300 million to run the sector.
Well, let me...
maybe all of us say it doesn't concern us. Even when the local content law in Nigeria is being violated. doesn't concern us.
Let me get
the capacity of Manitoba is
let's understand the position of the union on this. If there is expertise that these people are bringing, whether they've only managed 720 or they've managed 1 million people, the expertise is irrelevant. Yes, and that's the decision of the federal government. That expertise, has it not been part of the problem that we've had in terms of the management of PHCN to date?
Let me tell you.
Well, yes.
Let me tell you. You see, in my sector, in your sector, you're in a better position to advise. In my sector, I'm in a better position. But even when you don't take it, I have advised. And it will be there for history and posterity. However, you can't hand over the staff of PSN to Manitoba. Sorry.
They haven't done that.
Sorry, my brother. Let's get that.
No, they haven't done that. They've added people that will bring expertise.
Why are you telling me when you have a HR manager, this and that, all of them Manitoba?
Yes.
So issue, who is in charge? Let me tell you. Sorry,
Mr.
we are clear about this. Sorry, my sister. If you are bringing Manitoba in July, you can as well, even when you want the whole workers to work for Manitoba, it's a fresh contract. You can as well, since we are negotiating, exit everybody. Sorry, my brother. If you pay me my entitlement for working for PSCN, it doesn't really matter. This one we are trying to bug ourselves whether they are competent or not. It doesn't really matter if you give it to a street woman.
Okay, we have to wrap up in a few minutes. Probably in a couple of minutes, we'll have to wrap up. So as part of wrapping up, tell us, are there other issues? You've mentioned gratuity, you've mentioned pension, you've mentioned Manitoba Now, and you've also mentioned the 50% increase not applying to everybody across the board. What are the other issues?
I mentioned expired collective agreement that expired in 2011 that is not reviewed.
Okay.
Yeah. Beyond that, these are some of the main issues that are heating up.
So, have you placed a paper before the government and they said we're not meeting with you?
The issue is that even while we are negotiating, these issues I mentioned...
Also, negotiation is ongoing?
While we were negotiating.
While
you were? Yeah.
So now, at the moment, you're not negotiating?
At the moment, we are not negotiating, but the Labour Minister invited us to a meeting last Wednesday.
Okay.
And that meeting, we agreed to meet again on Wednesday. But from the look of things, the Minister of Power said what they have provided, according to him, he said it's about 144 billion. And that there's no going back. So he has foreclosed further negotiation. Negotiation is all about, if we go there, what is the manager's entitlement. If it comes below what he quoted, even government budgeted, it's nobody's problem.
Okay.
But if it's more than that, you have to look at it that this is the person's entitlement. But for you to have a fixated position that this is the amount we are going to pay, I think that's the problem we have.
Okay, so the strike is going ahead.
Well, by Wednesday, if nothing comes, in terms of the soldiers, they have pushed in all PSN installations.
Yeah, talking about the soldiers, they say it is to protect the installation.
What installation?
Whatever.
From I quoted when NEPA started in
bombing everywhere and everything in Nigeria.
So soldiers are protecting it. I've quoted that from 1972 when NEPA came into force up to now, because he was trying to call workers terrorists. We can't get a record of where workers destroyed the pin. The soldiers he sent.
But they're not accusing
workers
as
the soldiers they sent, for instance, in corporate headquarters Abuja, went there and took over and stopped everybody from entering. That is not surveillance. That's not protection.
Okay, I guess we will have to wrap up, but what will be your final word as part of wrapping up? Because the government has its position, you have your position. What will be the word that would make it possible for us to move beyond where we are now?
Well, my suggestion and submission is that it's not all about government position or our position. The issue of pension and gratuity have been there. In fact, it wasn't part of the things we went to negotiate, because this issue of either 25% or gratuity, a percentage of what you have worked, is there. It's not. It shouldn't have been the negotiated items. But I still maintain that we should go back to the table and then ask questions from all over the world. What is the practice? I think we should continue to talk. But the idea of criminalizing workers, at this point, somebody has now stolen 85 billion. Somebody is now a terrorist. Will not help this cause.
And somebody wants to turn off power so that the nation will be in darkness.
Well, the issue of turning off is an accusation. Because if you check,
But that's the
you have
implication.
threatened- You have threatened the
we are going to
return of
withdraw.
power.
We are going to withdraw our services, and I'm not sure anybody asks you to work without getting your entitlement.
Okay,
All right.
well, thank you very
We'll
much.
just leave it there for now. We've been chatting with the Secretary General of NUEE, NUEE being National Union of Electricity Employees, Mr. Joe Ajaero. Thank you for coming.
God bless you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment. Please stay with us.